Welcome. For professional exam preparation, tutoring, and study guides, scan the QR code or save the contact information shown on screen. Question 1. If the retail chain cannot immediately replace a legacy system, which approach is a compensating control as part of the risk reduction project for scenario 171A? Place the system on an isolated VLAN with strict firewalls. B. Disable backups to reduce system load. C. Give all users local administrator rights. D. Ignore the weakness until the next budget cycle. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Place the system on an isolated VLAN with strict firewalls. A compensating control reduces risk when the preferred control cannot be implemented right away. Ignoring the issue, expanding privileges, and disabling backups increase operational and security exposure. Question 2. Which item is a directive control during a city agency security awareness program before the production rollout for scenario 172? A. NIPS blocking malicious traffic. B. A written policy requiring users to report suspected phishing. C. A honeypot collecting attacker behavior. D. A backup server replicating data. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. A written policy requiring users to report suspected phishing. Directive controls tell people what actions or behavior are required. IPS, honeypots, and backups are technical controls that detect, deceive, or recover rather than direct behavior. Need help preparing for your exam? Scan the QR code or contact us on WhatsApp at +1 716 356 9126. You can also email remote.exam01@gmail.com for professional tutoring and study guides. Question 3. Why might a research lab deploy honeypot inside a monitored lab network during a service reliability review for scenario 173? A. To replace all endpoint protection tools. B. To guarantee malware cannot enter the network. C. To observe attacker behavior against a decoy system. D. To store production credentials for faster login. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. To observe attacker behavior against a decoy system. A honeypot is a deception technology that attracts or monitors suspicious activity in a controlled environment. It should not contain real credentials, replace layered defenses, or be treated as a guarantee against malware. Question 4. Before changing firewalls for an insurance firm's backup environment, which change management item is most important while updating the runbook for scenario 174? A. An informal chat message with no ticket. B. Immediate production changes without review. C. A password reset for every employee. D. Documented approval, testing plan, rollback plan, and implementation window. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Documented approval, testing plan, rollback plan, and implementation window. Formal change management reduces outage and security risk by requiring review, testing, scheduling, and rollback planning. Informal approval, unreviewed production changes, and unrelated password resets do not control the change safely. Question 5. During a software release at a hospital network, which practice best supports accountability for configuration changes for the next maintenance window for scenario 175? A. Store final scripts only on one administrator's laptop. B. Share one generic deployment account. C. Remove comments and history from every script. D. Use version control with commit history and reviewed pull requests. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Use version control with commit history and reviewed pull requests. Version control preserves change history and associates updates with identifiable contributors and reviewers. Single device storage, shared accounts, and removed history make changes harder to trace. Question 6. Which PKI component lets a university department's browsers verify that a server certificate changes to a trusted issuer during a quarterly review for scenario 176? A. Wireless access point. B. Packet sniffer. C. Certificate authority. D. Broadcast domain. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Certificate Authority. A certificate authority issues and signs certificates that clients can validate through a trust chain. Access points, broadcast domains, and packet sniffers do not establish certificate trust. Question 7. How does asymmetric encryption help a financial services team exchange data securely with external partners while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 177A? It uses a public key and a private key for encryption-related operations. B. It removes the need for certificate validation. C. It stores all private keys in DNS records. D. It uses one shared password for every partner. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. It uses a public key and a private key for encryption-related operations. Asymmetric cryptography uses key pairs, allowing secure exchange and verification without sharing the private key, shared passwords, skipped validation, and public storage of private keys weaken trust and confidentiality. Question 8. Which method should a remote sales group use to store user passwords more safely after a recent audit finding for scenario 178A? Plain text storage in a protected spreadsheet. B. Base 64 encoding before saving the password. C. Reversible encryption with the key beside the database. D. Salted and slow cryptographic password hashing. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Salted and slow cryptographic password hashing. Salting and slow password hashing make password cracking more difficult if the database is stolen. Plain text, poorly managed reversible encryption, and encoding do not provide appropriate password storage protection. Question 9. Why is a unique salt added before hashing passwords for a data analytics unit's account database during a pilot deployment for scenario 179A? It turns a hash into reversible encryption. B. It allows administrators to recover forgotten passwords. C. It prevents identical passwords from producing identical stored hashes. D. It replaces. The answer is C. It prevents identical passwords from producing identical stored hashes. A salt makes per-computed hash attacks and duplicate password identification less. Question 10. Which cryptographic feature should a software company use to verify both message integrity and sender authenticity while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 1710? A. Guest VLAN. B. Digital signature. C. Load balancer. D. Screen lock timer. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Digital signature. A digital signature validates that the message was signed by the private key holder and has not changed. A. VLAN, load balancer, and screen lock do not provide cryptographic proof of sender and content integrity. Question 11. When a call center wants to process payments without storing actual card numbers, which technique is most appropriate as part of the risk reduction project for scenario 1711A? Password spraying. B. Screen sharing. C. Port forwarding. D. Tokenization. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Tokenization. Tokenization replaces sensitive values with tokens that have limited meaning outside the payment system. Screen sharing and port forwarding do not reduce stored payment data exposure, while password spraying is an attack. Question 12. For a training screenshot at a distribution warehouse, which method hides sensitive fields while preserving the document format before the production rollout for scenario 1712? A. Open relay configuration. B. ARP spoofing. C. Data masking. D. Tail dating. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Data masking. Data masking conceals sensitive values while keeping realistic structure for training or testing. ARP spoofing, open relays, and tail dating are security risks, not privacy preserving data handling methods. Question 13. After a regional clinic's file shares are encrypted and a payment note appears, which first response is most appropriate during a service reliability review for scenario 1713? A. Isolate affected systems and preserve evidence for recovery. B. Reconnect infected hosts to verify spread. C. Pay immediately without validating backups. D. Delete all logs to free disk space. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Isolate affected systems and preserve evidence for recovery. Isolation limits further ransomware impact, while evidence preservation supports investigation and recovery decisions. Immediate payment, log deletion, and reconnecting infected hosts can worsen the incident or destroy useful evidence. Question 14. A user at a payment processor receives an email urging immediate password verification through a lookalike login page. Which attack is most likely while updating the runbook for scenario 1714? A. Bluejacking. B. Smurf attack. C. Phishing. D. Port scanning. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Phishing. Phishing uses deceptive messages and spoof pages to trick users into giving up credentials or sensitive information. Bluejacking, Smurf attacks, and port scanning describe different technical activities. Question 15. Which clue best indicates spear phishing against an executive at a school district for the next maintenance window for scenario 1715? A. A routine patch notification from the approved portal. B. A blocked inbound ping from a scanner. C. A broadcast outage affecting all switches. D. A highly personalized email referencing a real project and asking for urgent action. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. A highly personalized email referencing a real project and asking for urgent action. Spear phishing targets a specific person or role using tailored details to increase credibility. Outages, valid patch notices, and blocked pings do not indicate a personalized social engineering attempt. Question 16. During a phone call, an attacker claims to be its support and asks a user at a logistics company for an MFA code. Which term fits best during a quarterly review for scenario 1716? A. Predicting through USB. B. Smishing. C. Vishing. D. DNS tunneling. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Vishing. Vishing is voice-based social engineering that uses phone calls to manipulate victims. Smishing uses text messages. USB predicting is not the best label here, and DNS tunneling is a network technique. Question 17. If employees at a cloud startup receive text messages linking to fake payroll login, which threat vector is being used while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 1717? A. Password salting. B. Smishing. C. Word driving. D. VLAN hopping. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Smishing. Smishing is phishing delivered through SMS or text messaging. VLAN hopping and word driving are network attacks, while password salting is a defensive storage technique. Question 18. Which action best reduces supply chain risk before a manufacturing plant adopts a new software vendor after a recent audit finding for scenario 17 to 18? A. Review the vendor's security controls, update process, and contractual obligations. B. Disable software updates permanently. C. Use the vendor's default admin password. D. Skip vendor review because the product is popular. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Review the vendor's security controls, update process, and contractual obligations. Vendor assessment helps identify risks introduced by third-party software and support processes. Popularity, default credentials, and disabled updates leave supply chain weaknesses unmanaged. Question 19. How can a legal office better detect a trusted employee abusing access to the customer portal during a pilot deployment for scenario 17 to 19? A. Disable all logging for privacy. B. Give the employee additional shared accounts. C. Monitor behavior for anomalous activity tied to the user's normal baseline. D. Move the asset to public internet access. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Monitor behavior for anomalous activity tied to the user's normal baseline. User and entity behavior analytics can reveal insider activity that differs from expected patterns. Reduced logging, shared accounts, and public exposure make abuse harder to detect and contain. Question 20. When staff at a managed service provider use an unsanctioned file sharing app for customer records, which issue is present while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 17 to 20? A. The answer is B. Shadow it. Shadow it occurs when users adopt technology without organizational approval or governance. Certificate pinning, immutable backups, and network taps describe approved technical mechanisms, not unsanctioned service use. Question 21. Which attack uses stolen username password pairs from one breach to try logins at a retail chain's portal as part of the risk reduction project for scenario 17 to 21? A. DNS zone transfer. B. Authentication flood. C. Credential stuffing. D. Birthday attack. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Credential stuffing. Credential stuffing relies on reused credentials from other breaches to gain access to different services. Birthday attacks target hash collisions. Zone transfers expose DNS data. And authentication floods target wireless availability. Question 22. An attacker tries a few common passwords against many accounts at a city agency. Which attack is most likely before the production rollout for scenario 17 to 22? A. MAC filtering. B. Pass the ticket. C. Password spraying. D. SQL injection. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Password spraying. Password spraying avoids rapid lockout by testing common passwords across many accounts. Pass the ticket abuses Kerberos tickets. SQL injection targets applications. And MAC filtering is a weak access control method. Question 23. After obtaining an NTLM hash at a research lab, an attacker authenticates without knowing the plaintext password. Which attack is shown during a service reliability review for scenario 17 to 23? A. Pass the hash. B. Rainbow table prevention. C. Key stretching. D. ARP inspection. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Pass the hash. Pass the hash uses captured password hashes as authentication material in compatible environments. ARP inspection and key stretching are defenses, while rainbow table prevention describes a protection goal, not the attack. Question 24. Which control most directly reduces risk from stolen passwords at an insurance firm's remote access portal while updating the runbook for scenario 17 to 24? A. A public file share. B. A longer DHCP leases. C. A larger wireless channel width. D. Multi-factor authentication. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Multi-factor authentication. MFA requires another proof beyond the password, reducing the usefulness of stolen credentials. DHCP leases, channel width, and public sharing do not strengthen authentication. Question 25. A web form at a hospital network concatenates user input into SQL queries. Which secure coding practice is best for the next maintenance window for scenario 17 to 25? A. Use parameterized queries. B. Allow every character without validation. C. Hide error messages only after deployment. D. Run the database as a domain admin. The answer is A. Use parameterized queries. Parameterized queries separate code from user supply data, reducing SQL injection risk, unrestricted input, superficial error hiding, and excessive database privileges leave the application exposed. Question 26. Which defense best reduces reflected script execution in a university department's web application during a quarterly review for scenario 17 to 26? A. Static routing only. B. Open SNMP community strings. C. Output encoding and input validation. D. Disabling backups. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Output encoding and input validation. Cross-site scripting risk is reduced when entrusted input is validated and safely encoded before rendering. SNMP strings, static routing, and disabled backups do not address browser script injection. Question 27. How should a financial services team protect a state-changing web request from forged browser submissions while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 17 to 27? A. Require users to clear browser history daily. B. Use anti-CSRF tokens tied to the user session. C. Move the server to a larger subnet. D. Increase the DNS TTL. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Use anti-CSRF tokens tied to the user session. Anti-CSRF tokens help verify that a request came from the legitimate application flow. DNS-TTL, subnet size, and browser history clearing do not validate request intent. Question 28. A cloud app at a remote sales group can be tricked into requesting the metadata service URL. Which vulnerability is most likely after a recent audit finding for scenario 17 to 28? A. LDAP signing. B. MAC flooding. C. Server-side request forgery. D. Data tokenization. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Server-side request forgery. SSRF causes a server to make unintended requests, often to internal or metadata endpoints. MAC flooding targets switches. LDAP signing is a protection, and tokenization is a data protection method. Question 29. Which control best reduces path traversal in a data analytics unit's file download feature during a pilot deployment for scenario 17 to 29? A. Normalize and validate file paths against an allowed directory. B. Place database backups in the web root. C. Use shared local administrator accounts. D. Disable TLS on the site. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Normalize and validate file paths against an allowed directory. Path validation prevents requests such as parent directory traversal from reaching unauthorized files. Disabling TLS, exposing backups, and shared admin accounts create additional security problems. Question 30. For a legacy application at a software company, which feature helps reduce buffer overflow exploitation while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 17 to 30? A. Larger email attachments. B. Longer DHCP release times. C. Address space. The answer is C. Address space layout randomization and data execution prevention. ASLR and department make memory exploitation harder by randomizing locations and preventing execution in data regions. Attachment size, flat networks, and DHCP releases do not mitigate memory corruption. Question 31. A public site for a call center is overwhelmed by traffic from thousands of sources. Which mitigation is strongest as part of the risk reduction project for scenario 17 to 31? A. Use DDoS scrubbing or CDN-based protection. B. Publish database credentials for transparency. C. Disable MFA for administrators. D. Move all backups to the web server. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Use DDoS scrubbing or CDN-based protection. DDoS protection absorbs or filters large attack traffic before it reaches the origin service. Weakening administration and exposing credentials or backups increases risk without addressing traffic volume. Question 32. Which control helps prevent an on-path attacker from reading credentials to distribution warehouses portal before the production rollout for scenario 17 to 32? A. Use plain HTTP for faster loading. B. Enforce modern TLS with certificate validation. C. Share a single account for all users. D. Allow expired certificates. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Enforce modern TLS with certificate validation. TLS with valid certificates encrypts traffic and helps clients verify the server identity. Plain HTTP, expired certificates, and shared accounts make credential interception or misuse more likely. Question 33. An attacker on a regional clinic's LAN sends fake ARP replies to intercept traffic. Which protection is relevant during a service reliability review for scenario 17 to 33? A. Dynamic ARP inspection. B. Email journaling. C. Password history. D. Data masking. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Dynamic ARP inspection. Dynamic ARP inspection helps block malicious ARP responses based on trusted bindings. Email journaling, masking, and password history do not validate ARP traffic. Question 34. Which measure helps reduce DNS cache poisoning risk for a payment processor while updating the runbook for scenario 17 to 34? A. Disable endpoint logging. B. Route all traffic through Telnet. C. Use secure DNS practices such as DNS SEC validation and patch resolvers. D. Reuse default router passwords. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is you use secure DNS practices such as DNS SEC validation and patched resolvers. DNS SEC validation and maintained resolvers help detect or prevent forged DNS data. Less logging, default passwords, and telnet weaken security and do not protect DNS integrity. Question 35. A user at a school district joins a fake Wi-Fi network imitating the office SSID. Which attack is most likely for the next maintenance window for scenario 17 to 30? The answer is B. EvilTwin. An EvilTwin is a rogue wireless network made to look legitimate so users connect to it. Logic bombs and traversal attacks are different threats, while a blue team exercise is defensive. Question 36. Which step helps a logistics company find unauthorized wireless access points during a quarterly review for scenario 17 to 36? A. Increase password reuse. B. Disable all switch logs. C. Perform wireless scans and compare findings to the approved inventory. D. Use only shared local accounts. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Perform wireless scans and compare findings to the approved inventory. Wireless scanning detects access points that are not part of the approved environment. Reduced logging, shared accounts, and password reuse make rogue devices and abuse harder to control. Question 37. A workstation at a cloud startup shows kernel-level persistence after malware removal attempts. Which response is safest while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 17 to 37? A. Give the user domain admin rights. B. Trust the same infected operating system to clean itself. C. Add the malware folder to antivirus exclusions. D. Reimage the system from trusted media after preserving evidence. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Reimage the system from trusted media after preserving evidence. Root-like persistence can hide from normal tools, so trusted reimaging provides a cleaner recovery path. Self-cleaning from the infected OS, antivirus exclusions, and extra privileges increase risk. Question 38. Which tool category helps a manufacturing plant detect suspicious process behavior across endpoints after a recent audit finding for scenario 17 to 38? A. Label printer. B. Analog modem. C. Endpoint detection and response. D. Cable donor only. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Endpoint detection and response. EDR monitors endpoint activity and can detect, investigate, and respond to suspicious behavior. Modems, label printers, and cable donors do not provide endpoint behavioral security monitoring. Question 39. How should a legal office reduce risk from a critical vulnerability with active exploitation during a pilot deployment for scenario 17 to 39? A. Prioritize patching or mitigation based on severity, exposure, and exploitability. B. Delay action until every low-risk issue is closed. C. Disable vulnerability reporting. D. Patch only systems with no network access. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Prioritize patching or mitigation based on severity, exposure, and exploitability. Risk-based prioritization focuses remediation on flaws most likely to be exploited and most damaging. Low-risk first patching, isolated-only patching, and disabled reporting fail to address urgent exposure. Question 40. Which practice best hardens a new server image for a managed service provider while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 17 to 40? A. Turn off audit logging permanently. B. Apply a secure baseline that disables unnecessary services and enforces approved settings. C. Leave vendor credentials unchanged. D. Install every optional service by default. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Apply a secure baseline that disables unnecessary services and enforces approved settings. Hardening reduces attack surface by removing unnecessary functions and enforcing secure configuration. Extra services, default credentials, and disabled audit logs increase compromise and investigation risk. Question 41. Which access model should a retail chain apply to reduce unnecessary privileges on the HR system as part of the risk reduction project for scenario 17 to 41? A. Least privilege. B. Open relay. C. Shared ownership for all files. D. Implicit trust. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Least privilege. Least privilege gives users and services only the access needed for their roles. Implicit trust, open relays, and broad shared ownership increase access beyond business need. Question 42. Why should a city agency separate guest Wi-Fi from internal systems before the production rollout for scenario 17 to 42? A. Segmentation limits what guest devices can reach. B. It lets guests administer domain controllers. C. It guarantees all guests are malware free. D. It removes the need for encryption. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Segmentation limits what guest devices can reach. Segmentation creates boundaries that reduce lateral movement and protect internal resources. It does not prevent point health, replace encryption, or justify administrative access. Question 43. After malware is detected on a laptop at a research lab, which immediate containment step is appropriate during a service reliability review for scenario 17 to 43? A. Quarantine the device from the network. B. Disable all security tools. C. Copy unknown executables to production servers. D. Connect it to every file share for testing. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Quarantine the device from the network. Quarantine reduces the chance of spread while investigators determine scope and impact. Broad reconnection, disabled tools, and moving executables into production increase exposure. Question 44. Which vulnerability scan type gives an insurance firm deeper configuration findings on authenticated servers while updating the runbook for scenario 17 to 44? A. Screen capture scan. B. Credentialed scan. C. Uncredentialed external ping only. D. Phishing simulation only. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Credentialed scan. Credentialed scanning can inspect installed software, patches, and configuration settings from inside the host. Ping-only tests, screenshots, and phishing exercises do not provide the same host-level vulnerability detail. Question 45. How should a hospital network prioritize two vulnerabilities when one has active exploitation and internet exposure for the next maintenance window for scenario 17 to 45? A. Patch only systems with the lowest. The answer is B. Address the actively exploited internet-facing vulnerability first. Exploit activity and exposure increase likelihood, so they should strongly influence remediation priority. Alphabetical order, ignoring intelligence, and low-value only patching do not reflect risk. Question 46. When a scanner flags a service that is intentionally blocked by compensating controls, what should a university department do during a quarterly review for scenario 17 to 46? A. Delete the scanner report without review. B. Validate and document whether the finding is a false positive or accepted risk. C. Assume all findings are always exploitable. D. Disable every control around the service. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Validate and document whether the finding is a false positive or accepted risk. Validation separates true risk from inaccurate or context-limited findings and supports defensible tracking, deleting reports, weakening controls, and assuming exploitability without analysis reduce program quality. Question 47. Which control best protects a financial services team's public web app from common HTTP layer attacks while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 17 to 47? A. Plain FTP server. B. Managed hub. C. Web application firewall. D. Analog phone splitter. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Web Application Firewall. AWAF can inspect web requests and block patterns associated with attacks such as injection or cross-site scripting. Phone splitters, hubs, and FTP servers do not provide HTTP application layer protection. Question 48. Which tool should a remote sales group use to detect sensitive customer records leaving through email or uploads after a recent audit finding for scenario 17 to 48? A. Wake on LAN. B. DNS round robin only. C. Jumbo frames. D. Data loss prevention. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Data loss prevention. DLP identifies and can block unauthorized movement of sensitive information. Wake on LAN, DNS balancing, and frame size changes do not inspect sensitive content for exfiltration. Question 49. How can a data analytics unit govern cloud app use and enforce policy between users and SaaS platforms during a pilot deployment for scenario 17 to 49? A. Open guest account. B. Cloud access security broker. C. Serial console cable. D. An encrypted telnet. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Cloud Access Security Broker. ACASB provides visibility and policy enforcement for cloud service usage. Console cables, telnet, and guest accounts do not govern SaaS access or data controls. Question 50. Which control checks device posture before allowing systems onto a software company's internal network while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 17 to 50? A. Public DNS recursion. B. Network access control. C. Unlock server rack. D. Default printer sharing. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Network access control. NAC can evaluate identity, compliance, and device health before granting network access. Open recursion, printer sharing, and unlock racks do not enforce endpoint admission policy. Need help preparing for your exam? Scan the QR code or contact us on WhatsApp at +1 716 356 9126. You can also email remote.exam01@gmail.com for professional tutoring and study guides. Question 51. Which firewall approach should a call center use for a sensitive subnet with no stated business need for inbound access as part of the risk reduction project for scenario 17 to 51? A. Permit any source to any destination. B. Allow all traffic and investigate later. C. Default deny with explicit allow rules. D. Disable rule logging permanently. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Default deny with explicit allow rules. Default deny limits access to documented and approved flows only. Open rules and disabled logging expand attack paths and reduce visibility. Question 52. Which technology can actively block suspicious network traffic in line for a distribution warehouse before the production rollout for scenario 17 to 52? A. Intrusion prevention system. B. Cable label maker. C. Passive IDs only. D. Paper asset register. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Intrusion prevention system. An IPS sits in line and can block traffic that matches malicious patterns or behavior. A passive IDs alerts only, while asset registers and labels do not block traffic. Question 53. Which platform gives a regional clinic broader endpoint and telemetry correlation beyond traditional EDR during a service reliability review for scenario 17 to 53? A. Extended detection and response. B. A local-only calculator app. C. A managed switch. D. Plain text inventory. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Extended detection and response. XDR correlates telemetry across multiple security layers to improve detection and response. Inventory text, local utilities, and unmanaged switches do not provide cross-layer security analytics. Question 54. How should a payment processor secure company phones that access business email while updating the runbook for scenario 17 to 54? A. Use mobile device management to enforce encryption, screen lock, and remote wipe. B. Store passwords in contact names. C. Share one phone for all employees. D. Let users disable all lock screens. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Use mobile device management to enforce encryption, screen lock, and remote wipe. MDM allows centralized enforcement of mobile security settings and recovery actions. No screen locks, shared phones, and visible passwords weaken mobile access control. Question 55. For personally owned devices at a school district, which approach separates corporate data from personal data for the next maintenance window for scenario 17 to 55? A. Local admin rights for every user. B. Public file sharing. C. Container. The answer is C. Containerization or managed work profile. Containerization keeps business data managed and separable from personal content. Public sharing, no encryption, and broad administrator rights increase data exposure. Question 56. Which wireless configuration best supports enterprise user authentication at a logistics company during a quarterly review for scenario 17 to 56? A. WEP for compatibility. B. Share WPA password posted publicly. C. Open Wisconsin file with no encryption. D. WPA3 enterprise with 8021X authentication. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. WPA3 Enterprise with 8021X authentication. WPA3 Enterprise with 8021X provides stronger encryption and individual authentication. Open networks, public shared passwords, and WEP are weak or obsolete. Question 57. Before deploying new laptops, which step helps a cloud startup maintain consistent security settings while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 17 to 57? A. Let each user choose security settings randomly. B. Disable automatic updates forever. C. Apply a secure baseline image and verify compliance. D. Remove endpoint protection. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Apply a secure baseline image and verify compliance. A baseline image standardizes approved configuration and reduces configuration drift. Random settings, disabled updates, and removed protection create inconsistent and vulnerable endpoints. Question 58. Which method safely analyzes a suspicious attachment received by a manufacturing plant after a recent audit finding for scenario 17 to 58? A. Forward it to all employees. B. Open it on a production domain controller. C. Disable antivirus before testing. D. Open it in a sandboxed analysis environment. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Open it in a sandboxed analysis environment. Sandboxing isolates execution so analysts can observe behavior with reduced risk to production systems. Production execution, broad forwarding, and disabled defenses can spread malware. Question 59. How can a legal office detect related events across firewalls, endpoints, and identity logs during a pilot deployment for scenario 17 to 59? A. Use only handwritten notes. B. Delete older identity logs. C. Use SIEM correlation rules. D. Rely on one user's memory. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is use SIEM correlation rules. A. SIEM centralizes and correlates logs to identify patterns that individual tools may miss. Manual notes, deleted logs, and memory cannot reliably correlate distributed events. Question 60. Which automation helps a managed service provider respond consistently when phishing is reported while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 17 to 60? A. A public spreadsheet of user passwords. B. A disabled mail gateway. C. A manual process stored only in one person's inbox. D. A SOAR playbook that enriches, quarantines, and opens an investigation ticket. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. A SOAR playbook that enriches, quarantines, and opens an investigation ticket. SOAR playbooks automate repeatable response steps and reduce delay during common incidents. Unstructured manual processes, disabled gateways, and exposed passwords undermine response quality. Question 61. How should a retail chain limit standing administrator access to critical systems as part of a risk reduction project for scenario 17 to 61? A. privileged access management with just-in-time elevation. B. Permanent domain admin rights for every technician. C. No approval for privileged sessions. D. A shared root password. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Privileged access management with just-in-time elevation. PAM and just-in-time access reduce the time and scope of privileged exposure. Permanent broad rights, shared passwords, and no approval weaken accountability and control. Question 62. Which identity approach lets a city agency use one trusted login across multiple cloud applications before the production rollout for scenario 17 to 62? A. Federated single sign-on. B. Plain text password sharing. C. Anonymous access to all apps. D. Local accounts in every app with different owners. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Federated single sign-on. Federated SSO allows applications to trust a central identity provider for authentication. Separate and managed accounts, anonymous access, and password sharing reduce control and visibility. Question 63. A push-based MFA system at a research lab is being abused with repeated prompts. Which improvement helps during a service reliability review for scenario 17 to 63? A. Make passwords shorter. B. Turn off MFA for all users. C. Tell users to approve every prompt. D. Number matching or phishing resistant MFA. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Number matching or phishing resistant MFA. Number matching and phishing resistant methods reduce accidental approvals and push fatigue risk. Disabling MFA, approving every prompt, and shorter passwords weaken authentication. Question 64. When an employee leaves an insurance firm, which IAM process must happen quickly while updating the runbook for scenario 17 to 64? A. Keep VPN access active indefinitely. B. Increase the user's privileges. C. Deprovision accounts and revoke active sessions. D. Forward credentials to the new hire. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Deprovision accounts and revoke active sessions. Timely deprovisioning prevents former users from accessing systems after separation. More privileges, credential sharing, and indefinite access create avoidable risk. Question 65. Which log management practice helps a hospital network support investigations and compliance for the next maintenance window for scenario 17 to 65? A. Store logs only in volatile memory. B. Define retention. The answer is B. Define retention periods and protect logs from unauthorized modification. Retention and integrity controls preserve evidence and make investigation timelines more reliable. Editable, volatile, or prematurely deleted logs weaken accountability and compliance. Question 66. During incident response at a university department, which step focuses on stopping further damage after detection during a quarterly review for scenario 17 to 66? A. Routine onboarding. B. Procurement. C. Marketing review. D. Containment. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Containment. Containment isolates affected accounts, hosts, or network paths to limit the incident's spread. Procurement, marketing, and onboarding are business activities outside the immediate incident control phase. Question 67. Which practice preserves evidence integrity when a financial services team collects a laptop for forensics while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 17 to 67? A. Let multiple people use the laptop casually. B. Store evidence with no labels. C. Maintain chain of custody documentation. D. Wipe the drive before imaging. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Maintain chain of custody documentation. Chain of custody records who handled evidence, when it was handled, and how it was protected. Casual use, wiping, and unlabeled storage undermine evidence reliability. Question 68. After restoring service, what should a remote sales group perform to prevent the same incident from recurring after a recent audit finding for scenario 17 to 68? A. Ignore the original weakness. B. Delete lessons learned notes. C. Cancel all future testing. D. Root cause analysis. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Root cause analysis. Root cause analysis identifies the underlying issue and informs corrective action. Ignoring weaknesses, deleting notes, and canceling tests make recurrence more likely. Question 69. Which activity best describes threat hunting at a data analytics unit during a pilot deployment for scenario 17 to 69? A. Proactively searching telemetry for signs of compromise based on a hypothesis. B. Approving every firewall change without review. C. Turning off all alerts. D. Waiting only for users to complain. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Proactively searching telemetry for signs of compromise based on a hypothesis. Threat hunting is proactive and hypothesis driven rather than only alert driven. Passive waiting, disabled alerts, and unreviewed changes reduce detection capability. Question 70. Which backup strategy improves a software company's ransomware resilience while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 17 to 70? A. Never test restores. B. Maintain offline or immutable backups tested through restoration. C. Keep the only backup mounted to every workstation. D. Store backups on the infected server only. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Maintain offline or immutable backups tested through restoration. Immutable or offline backups resist alteration by malware, and restore testing confirms recoverability. Always mounted, untested, or same server backups may fail during ransomware recovery. Question 71. If a call center can lose at most 15 minutes of data, which metric is being defined as part of the risk reduction project for scenario 17 to 71? A. Mean time to repair. B. Mean time between failures. C. Annualized rate of occurrence. D. Recovery point objective. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Recovery point objective. RPO defines the maximum acceptable amount of data loss measured in time. MTBF, MTTR, and RO describe reliability, repair time, and likelihood rather than data loss tolerance. Question 72. Which recovery site should a distribution warehouse choose when it needs near immediate failover with running infrastructure before the production rollout for scenario 17 to 72? A. Hot site. B. Unpowered storage closet. C. Cold site. D. Empty office suite. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Hot site. A hot site has systems and connectivity ready for rapid failover. Cold or empty locations require significant setup and cannot provide near immediate recovery. Question 73. Why would a regional clinic place multiple web servers behind a load balancer during a service reliability review for scenario 17 to 73? A. To distribute traffic and improve service availability. B. To make passwords optional. C. To store encryption keys and cookies. D. To remove the need for patching. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. To distribute traffic and improve service availability. Load balancing spreads requests and can route around failed servers. Patching, authentication, and key management remain necessary regardless of load balancing. Question 74. Which power control helps a payment processor handle short utility outages for network equipment while updating the runbook for scenario 17 to 74? A. Uninterruptible power supply. B. Flat VLAN design. The answer is A. Uninterruptible power supply. A. UPS supplies temporary power and can bridge short outages or allow graceful shutdown. Open Wisconsin FI, flat VLANs, and expired certificates do not provide electrical continuity. Question 75. How should a school district secure infrastructure as code templates before deployment for the next maintenance window for scenario 17 to 75? A. Deploy templates directly from personal laptops without review. B. Hardcode secrets in every template. C. Scan templates for misconfigurations and require code review. D. Disable version control. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Scan templates for misconfigurations and require code review. EX scanning and review catch insecure settings before they become live infrastructure. Unreviewed deployments, hard-coded secrets, and no version control increase cloud risk. Question 76. Which step reduces risk from vulnerable container images in a logistics company's registry during a quarterly review for scenario 17 to 76? A. Scan images and rebuild from trusted base images. B. Run every container as privileged by default. C. Ignore image agent source. D. Store secrets in image layers. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Scan images and rebuild from trusted base images. Image scanning and trusted rebuilds help remove known vulnerabilities and unsafe components. Privileged containers, ignored provenance, and secrets in layers increase compromise impact. Question 77. In a public cloud deployment, which statement about shared responsibility is accurate for a cloud startup while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 17 to 77? A. The provider secures the underlying cloud, while the customer secures configured workloads and data. B. The provider handles every customer password. C. No one is responsible for identity controls. D. The customer maintains the provider's physical data center. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. The provider secures the underlying cloud, while the customer secures configured workloads and data. Shared responsibility divides duties between the cloud provider and the customer based on service model. Passwords, physical facilities, and identity controls cannot be ignored or assigned incorrectly. Question 78. Which remote access design gives a manufacturing plant stronger access control than exposing admin ports to the internet after a recent audit finding for scenario 17 to 78? A. Disabled logging for remote sessions. B. Expose RDP to any source. C. Publish SSH private keys. D. Use a VPN or zero trust access broker with MFA. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Use a VPN or zero trust access broker with MFA. Controlled remote access with strong authentication reduces exposure of administrative services. Open admin ports, exposed keys, and disabled logs increase the chance and impact of compromise. Question 79. Which classification should a legal office apply to payroll data before choosing safeguards during a pilot deployment for scenario 17 to 79? A. Public marketing content. B. Discarded test data with no controls. C. Anonymous weather data. D. Sensitive or confidential. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Sensitive or confidential. Payroll records contain personal and financial information that requires stronger protection. Public, discarded, or anonymous labels understate the sensitivity of payroll data. Question 80. How should a managed service provider protect database files stored on cloud volumes while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 17 to 80? A. Use guest accounts for database administrators. B. Disable access logs. C. Use encryption at rest with controlled key access. D. Store all files world readable. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Use encryption at rest with controlled key access. Encryption at rest protects stored data if media or snapshots are exposed, while key access controls limit use. World readable files, no logs, and guest administration weaken confidentiality and accountability. Question 81. Which key management practice is strongest for retail chains? High-value signing keys as part of the risk reduction project for scenario 17 to 81. A. Email private keys to administrators. B. Store and manage keys in an HSM with rotation procedures. C. Reuse one key forever. D. Place keys in public code repositories. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Store and manage keys in an HSM with rotation procedures. An HSM helps protect private keys from extraction and supports controlled cryptographic operations. A mailing, never rotating, or publishing keys destroys the trust those keys provide. Question 82. Which analysis helps a city agency identify critical processes and acceptable downtime before the production rollout for scenario 17 to 82? A. Business impact analysis. B. War driving survey. C. Password reuse check only. D. Packet fragmentation test. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Business impact analysis. ABM maps business processes to impact, recovery priorities, and downtime tolerance. Wireless surveys, fragmentation tests, and password checks do not define business recovery priorities. Question 83. Which document should a research lab maintain to track identified risks, owners, likelihood, impact, and treatment plans during a service reliability review for scenario 17 to 83? A. Cable crimper. B. Wallpaper policy. C. DHCP lease file only. D. Risk register. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Risk register. The risk register documents risk details and supports ongoing management and accountability. Hardware tools, lease files, and cosmetic policies do not track organizational risk treatment. Question 84. Which risk strategy is used when an insurance firm buys cyber insurance for certain financial losses while updating the run book for scenario 17 to 84? A. Risk avoidance by deleting all systems. B. Risk transference. C. Risk ignoring. D. Risk acceptance only. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Risk transference. Insurance transfers part of the financial impact to another party under defined conditions. Acceptance keeps the risk. Avoidance eliminates the activity. And ignoring is not a valid management strategy. Question 85. After remediation, a hospital network still has a small remaining exposure approved by leadership. What is this called for the next maintenance window for scenario 17 to 85? A. Broadcast storm. B. Zero risk. C. Residual risk. D. False encryption. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Residual risk. Residual risk is the risk that remains after controls or treatments are applied. Zero risk is unrealistic. False encryption is not a standard risk term, and broadcast storm is a network condition. Question 86. Which due diligence item should a university department request from a vendor that will host sensitive data during a quarterly review for scenario 17 to 86? A. Security questionnaire, audit report, and data handling commitments. B. A promise to avoid all documentation. C. Permission to bypass contractual review. D. A shared administrator password. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Security questionnaire, audit report, and data handling commitments. Vendor due diligence evaluates whether the third party can protect data and meet obligations. No documentation, shared credentials, and bypass review increase third party risk. Question 87. Which agreement defines expected uptime and response targets for a financial services team's managed security provider while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 17 to 87? A. Open guest Wi-Fi policy. B. Personal text message. C. Service level agreement. D. Password hint list. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Service level agreement, and SLA documents measurable service expectations such as uptime, response time, and escalation commitments. Informal messages, Wi-Fi policies, and password hints do not establish service performance terms. Question 88. Before sharing proprietary designs with a consultant, which document should a remote sales group require after a recent audit finding for scenario 17 to 88? A. Public press release. B. Open source license for all data. C. Default root or password list. D. Non-disclosure agreement. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Non-disclosure agreement. An NDA creates confidentiality obligations for information shared with the consultant. Press releases, broad open licensing, and password lists do not protect proprietary information. Question 89. Which contract clause helps a data analytics unit verify a vendor's security controls over time during a pilot deployment for scenario 17 to 89? A. No logging requirement. B. Right to audit. C. Unlimited anonymous access. D. Permanent waiver of review. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Right to audit. A right to audit clause allows the organization to assess or verify vendor controls according to the agreement. Anonymous access, no logs, and review waivers reduce oversight. Question 90. How should a software company reduce privacy risk when collecting customer data while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 17 to 90? A. Collect only the data needed for a defined business purpose. B. Store data forever without review. C. Publish customer records for testing. D. Collect every possible field just in case. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Collect only the data needed for a defined business purpose. Data minimization limits exposure by reducing unnecessary collection and retention. Over-collection, indefinite storage, and public testing data increase privacy and compliance risk. Question 91. Which assessment is performed by an independent party to evaluate a call center's controls as part of the risk reduction project for scenario 17 to 91? A. Casual hallway conversation. B. Uncontrolled self-editing of logs. C. External audit. D. Unplanned production reboot. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. External audit. An external audit uses an independent reviewer to assess control design or operation. Self-edited logs, informal conversations, and reboots are not independent control assessments. Question 92. Which training outcome is most useful after a distribution warehouse runs a phishing simulation before the production rollout for scenario 17 to 92? A. Employees recognize suspicious messages and report them through the approved channel. B. Employees learn to approve unknown MFA prompts. C. Managers disable security reporting. D. Users store passwords in email drafts. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Employees recognize suspicious messages and report them through the approved channel. Awareness training should improve recognition and reporting of social engineering attempts, approving prompts, storing passwords in drafts, and disabling reporting undermine security culture. Question 93. How should cloud engineer protect confidentiality when a regional clinic shares regulated reports with a contractor during a service reliability review for scenario 17 to 93? A. Store the files without permissions for faster access. B. Send the file through an unsigned public link. C. Encrypt the files and restrict access to authorized recipients. D. Publish the files on an internal wiki. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Encrypt the files and restrict access to authorized recipients. Encryption and access control reduce the chance that sensitive data is viewed by unauthorized users. Open sharing, weak permissions, and public links expose the data instead of protecting confidentiality. Question 94. Which control best supports integrity when a payment processor needs proof that a downloaded firmware image was not altered while updating the runbook for scenario 17 to 94? A. Rename the firmware file after download. B. Disable logging during the firmware upgrade. C. Compress the firmware before installation. D. Compare the vendor provided hash with the downloaded file hash. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Compare the vendor provided hash with the downloaded file hash. A cryptographic hash changes when the file changes, making it useful for validating integrity, compression, renaming, and disabling. Question 95. Why would a school district deploy redundant power and clustering for the HR system for the next maintenance window? A. To replace incident response planning. B. To remove the need for authentication. C. To make stored data anonymous. D. To improve availability during component failures. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. To improve availability during component failures. Redundancy allows a service to continue operating when a single component fails. Authentication, anonymization, and incident response address different security goals and do not directly provide high availability. Question 96. When a logistics company needs proof that an administrator approved a critical change, which mechanism is strongest during a quarterly review for scenario 17 to 96? A. A verbal approval with no record. B. A shared administrator password. C. A deleted change ticket. D. A digitally signed approval record. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D, a digitally signed approval record. Digital signatures support non-repudiation because they bind approval to a specific signer and protect the record from undetected modification. Shared passwords, verbal approval, and deleted records weaken accountability. Question 97. A help desk at a cloud startup must distinguish authentication from authorization. Which statement is accurate while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 17 to 97? A. Authentication verifies identity, while authorization determines allowed actions. B. Authorization replaces logging for privileged accounts. C. Authentication assigns file permissions after login. D. Authorization proves a user's identity with a password. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Authentication verifies identity, while authorization determines allowed actions. Authentication answers who the user is, and authorization answers what the verified user may access. Permissions alone do not verify identity. Passwords are authentication factors, and logging remains part of accountability. Question 98. During a zero trust rollout for a manufacturing plant, which design principle should guide access to the wireless network after a recent audit finding? A. Trust all users once they are on the corporate network. B. Continuously verify identity, device posture, and context before allowing access. C. Disable MFA to reduce login friction. D. Place every system on one flat internal VLAN. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Continuously verify identity, device posture, and context before allowing access. Zero Trust assumes no implicit trust and evaluates access requests based on verified signals. Network location alone, weaker authentication, and flat segmentation conflict with Zero Trust principles. Question 99. Which example is a preventive technical control for a legal office's database cluster during a pilot deployment? A. A weekly executive risk report. B. A CCTV recording reviewed after theft. C. A firewall rule that blocks unauthorized inbound traffic. D. A policy document stored in the HR portal. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. A firewall rule that blocks unauthorized inbound traffic. A firewall rule can technically prevent unwanted traffic before it reaches the service. Reports, recordings, and policy documents are useful, but they do not directly prevent traffic at the technical boundary. Question 100. After suspicious activity appears in a managed service provider's logs, which control acts primarily as detective while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 17 to 100? A. A password complexity policy. B. A door badge reader that controls entry. C. Disk encryption on laptops. D. SIEM correlation that alerts on abnormal events. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. SIEM correlation that alerts on abnormal events. SIEM alerting identifies and reports events that may require investigation. Encryption, badge access, and password policy are mainly protective or preventive rather than detective. Thank you for watching. For professional exam preparation, tutoring, and study guides, scan the QR code or use the contact information shown on screen.